I'm going to switch the camera. So yeah, it'd be great if you could go into silence. That would be helpful for the recording, I think. But if there's any problems during the session, do say something now. So I'll move to this camera. Yeah, that's better. So yeah, that's it. We're gonna go. Oh my God. Okay, so yeah, welcome to today's session. So what I wanted to do, I mean, I know Sadat has been doing this a little bit as well, but we've drawn from the practice sessions which we teach on the teacher training. So we've got like 18 or so sessions which actually follow more like groups. So this is a bit unusual, this session, in that we're going to be focusing on twists or rotations. So sometimes I like to distinguish between a rotation is when the pelvis is fixed and you turn the upper body, and a twist is when the upper body is fixed and you turn the lower body. But that's a kind of peculiar thing to us, I suspect. The rotation and twist is basically the same thing. So the spine is rotating. Okay. And yeah, my experience with this sequence is it's very centering. I think there's something about working both sides of the body and also the rhythm of the session and the nature of the postures. It makes for a sort of calming sequence. We're not working strongly the muscles of the back. We're not doing any big stretches as such, although there are a couple of standing poses. So well, just feel it. I think that's the important thing, is to feel it. So we'll follow the same format where we do the class, and then we'll go into meditation, and then I'll leave you to do Shavasana, which I would recommend with the last 10-15 minutes up to the half hour. Okay, so I'll aim to finish about 15:15. Okay. So yeah, we're going to start lying down and come into semi-supine, but for a moment. Okay. And then I'd like you to separate your feet so they go as wide as your mat. Okay, so they go as wide as your mat, if not even slightly wider than the mat. So sometimes it's called like scissor legs, because of the way that the legs scissor over each other. The arms, you could take them out into the T shape. Because I've got a wall to my left, I'm going to put my hands behind the head just to keep the arms grouped in. And then for a moment, we'll close the eyes and tune in with the floor, with gravity, with the atmosphere of the space you're in. So it might not be a familiar room. You know, if you're in a hotel room, you've maybe never stayed in that room before. Just getting a sense of the space, or maybe it's really familiar. It's like your bedroom. But get a sense of what's going on in the space that you're in. Take a few moments to start to cultivate receptivity to the body. So we've got the positioning of the feet now wider or as wide as your mat. So you'll notice that maybe the legs want to fall in. So just gently keeping the knees towards the vertical, the legs towards the legs upright. And then tuning in with your breath. And tuning in with your mood. So it might, just to say this, it might not be that clear, your mood, or you might feel a bit disconnected. As we say in Spanish, a bit cruzado, like you might be a little bit like like wires crossed. So that's fine, okay? So if you're not feeling that clear about how you are, that's fine. It will clarify during the session, for sure. Some clarity will come. So it's fine just to be how you are. So if we can bring in a quality of gentleness to our experience. And then opening the eyes, so the head actually could stay neutral, but you can turn the head in this. So we're gonna, as we exhale, we take the legs
to the right, and the head can go to the left. So it's like they scissor across, and on the inhale, you center your head, center your legs, and exhale to the opposite side. Okay, so we're getting into a gentle movement. Inhale to center, exhale to the opposite side. What we're doing here is we're rolling the pelvis, or rocking the pelvis from side to side, and the head is doing the opposite. So often this can be quite a useful movement to do at the end of a session. What it pretends to cultivate is harmony between the legs, appendicular skeleton, and the pelvis and lower back, the axial skeleton. So it's aiming to bring a harmonic movement from the, as it were, from the axis to the legs to the axis, and likewise, if you're moving the head, you're bringing a movement into the neck spine, also the axis. But the arms are staying still. Okay. So it gently mobilizes the lower back or the neck if you're involving the head as well. Okay. Okay, next time we exhale to one side, I'd like you to let yourself be there for 3 or 4 breaths. Just being still. So this is a very mild pose, or I would imagine, very mild indeed. You might feel a little bit of stretch down the outer thigh, a little bit of stretch down the inner thigh. And then we'll switch sides, 3, 4 breaths on the opposite side. So the gaze can go opposite to the legs. Releasing around the shoulders, around the neck, around the arms. And on an inhale, coming back to center, and gather your feet close together. And I'm going to roll to one side. From there, we're going to come into all fours. Okay. So we will do a little bit of gentle work up on the feet, but we'll start off here in child's pose. Okay. Releasing the head down. On an inhale, coming up into all fours. You can have the tops of the feet on the floor or the toes tucked under. And very simple, cat-cow. So as you exhale, you're gathering yourself into your center, pressing through the hands. On the inhale, rolling the pelvis forwards, taking the gaze forwards, tipping the pelvis forwards, and repeat. Exhale, back to the cat shape. Inhale into the cow shape, cat-cow. Connecting with your breath now. Inhaling and lengthening through the front of the body. Pubic bone to throat, gaze forwards, exhale. Gathering yourself up into your center. You could slightly enhance the drawing up of the belly, what's sometimes called Mula Bandha, to bring some gentle tone to the lower belly area, particularly on the exhale. Coming into a neutral shape. And then we're going to bring the hands close closer together. So this is an alternating movement, and be really gentle with your neck. So as you inhale, you're going to pick up one arm, look out to the side, exhale, bring the arm down, palm as it were underneath the chest, inhale to the opposite side. Starting off with quite well within your limits, okay? So come down on the exhale, inhale, back to the other side. So you're picking up, it's like you're winging an arm out, as though you're, as it were, unfolding a wing. Each time you can explore turning a little bit more. So I'd suggest you take the gaze with the arm, not necessarily looking at the hand, but you're looking out to the side. The pelvis stays fairly neutral, fairly neutral. Next time we come to the right, I want you to bring the hand down onto the sacrum, the right hand onto the sacrum. And then looking down for a moment, lengthening through the axis. So you're lengthening from the pubic bone to the throat, pressing gently through the left hand. And then we're going to turn the chest, turn the gaze with the chest to the right. So you're looking away to your right. Awareness in the pelvis. So we try to keep the pelvis centered. So we'll want to shift. He'll probably want to shift to the right. So try and keep the center of the pelvis over the center line. Breathing there. Exhaling, palm comes down more or less to the center. Inhale to the left. Pick up and then bring your hand onto the sacrum, looking down for a moment. So looking down will help you to clarify what's happening in the axis in the spine, lengthening from the pubic bone through to the throat and then turning away. So yeah, you will activate like I think it's the latissimus dorsi. There's big groups of muscles across the back of the body. Gently pressing through the down hand. Breathing and lengthening through the axis. Exhale. Back to all fours, separating the hands, release back for a moment into child's pose. Inhale, come up to sitting. So I think a brick or some padding could be useful because we're going to come up into a lunge. I'm going to place the pad underneath my left knee, come back into all fours, and step my right foot forwards. Okay. So depending on your flexibility, you go for a longer base. If you want more stability and less challenge, you go for a shorter base. We then pop up or lift ourselves up. So the right forearm is resting on my left thigh. We'll do a little bit of a warm up here. So as you inhale, reach up into the left hand and move the pelvis forwards and down. As you exhale, come back. Okay. Lifting the pelvis, dropping the arm. Inhale, we can turn to look back on the inhale, exhale. Adjusting the feet appropriately. As you inhale, you can turn, look out to the right, left. Exhale, looking forwards, bringing the pelvis up. I'm tucking my back toes under, which gives a little bit more sense of stability in the back leg. Okay, exhaling down, all fours, switching the brick across. So my right knee is supported on something. It could be a folded towel or something coming up. Adjusting my base. So seems for me it's good to bring the feet towards the center line. So I've got quite a narrow base. Okay, and then on the inhale, reaching up and back.
turning to the right. Exhale, back up, following my own breath, exploring this movement, which is sort of a semicircular movement. Adjusting the foot base as is appropriate. Using your left forearm as a support on your thigh, your left thigh. Inhale one more time. Exhale, bring your palms down. This time we're going to step back into a dog pose, but a very light dog pose, just to open the backs of the legs. Bring some weight down into the upper body, through the arms. And drop down to all fours. So the padding again under your left knee. Step your right foot forwards. And then bring both hands now up onto your right thigh. So we're going to move this now into a twist, but going in the opposite direction. So bring your left arm up. This will probably be a familiar pose. And then we're going to lengthen through the left side of the body and hook the left elbow across your right thigh. Okay. If you can, you then bring your palms together. You can look down towards your palms and turning to your right. Unfortunately, I'm turning away from the camera, but hopefully you've got the idea there. So I'm lengthening through my left side, grounding my right foot. I'm using the resistance against the right thigh to turn. This works into the hip rotators as well as the flexor and the back leg. Breathe there. And try and lift the chest, as it were, lift and turn. So we continue this process of lengthening through the left side of the body. Okay, and releasing down. Come down to all fours. Gently and very lightly into a dog pose, bringing some weight through the upper body. You can move the brick across. So my right knee is supported. Left foot forwards. Could try, I've been doing with back foot tucked under for more stability, but you could try having the top of the foot on the floor, both hands come up onto the left thigh now. And I'm going to lengthen up my right arm, reaching up. So I'm trying to lengthen from the right front hip all the way through the right side of the body, hook across. Would have made more sense to have done it this way around. Palms then come together, projecting through the back leg, back foot, so the back foot's active, whether it's tucked under or top of the foot on the floor, and then lengthening through the right side of the body and turning gently. See if you can move, the sense of moving the right ribs towards the center line, the medial line of the pose. So again, we've got this resistance which we're forming between the right upper arm against the left thigh. So it's a sort of classic turning standing pose, but it's slightly gentler because we've got the back knee down. Okay. We're allowing the pose to, as it were, penetrate down through the muscle structures. It's quite engaging pose. Exhale when you're ready. Arms down. Carefully moving back to all fours, taking a very light dog pose. So the way we've been hopefully you've got this with the dog pose, the ears in line with the upper arms. Okay, so moving the brick across again. So it's now underneath the left knee. Bring my left knee onto some support. Right foot comes forwards again. I come up. So we're going to take this one more step forward. So we're going to straighten the back leg. So left arm comes up. Try to reach across your right thigh. Palms come together into Namaste. This time you're definitely tucking the back toes. So the intention here is to engage the back leg. So you float the back leg off the floor. So it's a long base, revolving standing pose. But my back heel is lifting, okay? So hips facing forwards, breathing there. So yeah, we're engaging the bigger muscles of the thighs. It gets more demanding, this pose. Sense of lengthening through the axis and turning. From there, back down the back knee, dropping the back knee down carefully. Palms to the floor. And back into dog pose. Very light, very brief. Switch your brick across. Right knee down, left foot forwards. Okay, so yeah, you're probably going to want a slightly longer base. Taking your right arm up, hooking across, sweeping across, palms come together. Try and lift the chest away from your right thigh, left thigh. And then see if we can engage the back foot, back leg. So it lifts off the floor. Breathing now. You can really feel the thigh muscles working around the buttocks. It's a more powerful twist, standing twist. Keeping the front foot well grounded, so there's awareness in the big toe. Keeping that anchored. Turning now. Breathing. When we're ready, drop the back knee. Palms to the floor. And let's take a rest. Take a rest now into child's pose. And soften there. So feeling the work you've just done in the legs. Relaxing the head. If you want to, as I've been saying, if it's more restful for you to sit back onto the feet rather than resting into child's pose, it might be a little bit more stimulating. You don't always have to go back to child's pose. It's not the only option. So I'd like to do one pose where we do actually come right up onto the feet. So it's going to be helpful to have what we would recommend is a wooden brick, or like if you've got a few more, if you're in a hotel room, you have no idea. You can just rest the hand on the shin, but I've got like a little pile of bricks there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up. I'm going to go off. My head's going to go off the screen for a moment. So I'm going to bring my left foot forwards and my right foot back. Okay. So you're not going for a really long base. So I've got my left foot on the inside of the bricks. Okay, so this is going to be a slightly more challenging version. So the pelvis is facing towards the short edge of your mat, both legs straight. And then we take the right arm up. So the right arm goes up. And then you reach forwards, tipping over the pelvis, both legs straightening. Try and keep the front leg straight. And then we're bringing the right hand onto the left shin, okay? The left hand goes onto the sacrum. You can adjust the length of the base, and then we lengthen through the whole of the axis. So this is a powerful standing pose of a reverse triangle. Lengthening and turning. If you've got, as it were, more rotation available, you could take your hand to the bricks or to the brick and continue the process of turning. It's okay to let the groins close a little bit. So you might find your right hip wants to drop a little bit. We keep turning. Keep turning, keeping the neck long, and then maybe turning the gaze to your left. Okay. If you want to try taking the top arm up, just be careful what happens in the shoulder area. Try and keep a sense of space between the neck and the shoulder. So if that doesn't work, a sense of losing space around the neck and the shoulder, keep the top arm down. Both legs straightening. And on an exhale, bend the front leg, turn towards the center, float back up to the vertical. Step back to the center of your mat. We're going to move the bricks across to the opposite side if you're using bricks. So your right foot is forwards. My foot is on the inside of the bricks. Left foot back. So the back foot, maybe I should have said, deep turn in on the back foot. And I'm not going for a really long base. So this is a challenging pose. So you will feel that. Okay, so the left arm goes up, lengthening from the left hip, front hip to the left arm. Reach forward at the same time, tipping forwards over your pelvis. Lengthening forward, and we bring the hand to the right shin to begin with. Right hand goes onto the sacrum. You're lengthening through the front of the body, through the front of the body. Both legs straightening. Feet grounding. Reverse triangle, Paravrita Trikonasana. If you've got the rotation available, you can take the left hand to the bricks, the sense of turning to the right, lengthening, turning, both legs straightening, and depending on the neck, turning the gaze to the right and taking the top arm up. Breathing there. If it doesn't feel okay on the shoulder and the neck, drop your top arm. It's more interesting thinking about the axis, lengthening, the legs working. There's a powerful leg action in this pose. Both legs moving towards straight, especially the front leg if you can. Breathing there. Lengthening through the front of the body. Awareness in the sacrum to the back of the skull, base of the skull, that we're lengthening there as well. And then on an exhale, bend the front leg, floating back up. And then just have a moment standing into Tadasana, feeling your body in upright position. Breathing. I think it'd be good to revisit that, yeah, because it's not a pose we're maybe doing very often. So let's just revisit. So set up your bricks on your left side, your left foot forwards, your right leg back. Maybe now you've got more of a sense of the distance between your feet. The back foot is well turned in, and the pelvis is facing the short edge of your mat. Your right arm floats up, and we reach forwards. So it may be helpful to bend the front knee at this stage. Bend the front knee. Let's try that. Reach forwards with the front leg bent, lengthen through the front of the body, and then bring your hand to the left shin, and then think about straightening the front leg. Turning, and then explore the possibility of taking the hand across a little bit further. We go into a deeper turn. We're going to your limit. So it's fine to work with the right hand on the shin below the knee. And then depending on your neck and shoulder, your balance also, you can take your top arm up and take the gaze to the left. Breathing there, keeping length through the front of the body. Back leg strong, engage, back heel down. Keep breathing. The breathing is probably going to be shorter and sharper Exhale, dropping the top arm, bending the front leg. Inhale, floating up to the center, changing sides, moving your gear across. So the feet also, they can be on these tram lines. So you're not lining heel to heel necessarily. More like each foot is lined up with its own hip. Left arm floats up. We reach forwards, bending the front knee. So try that this time. Might make it a little bit easier to lengthen through the front of the body. The left hand comes onto the right shin. You then explore straightening both legs, lengthening the front of the body. Back foot, heel grounded. Front foot, big toe grounded. There's a lot of contradictory forces in the pose which throw you off balance. If you can, then exploring taking the left hand across, turning, breathing, possibly turning the gaze, taking the top arm up. Really the last detail, taking the top arm up. So depending on your neck and shoulder, it's maybe more interesting keeping the right hand on the sacrum, emphasizing lengthening the axis, turning the rib cage, both legs straining. So intense leg work here. On an exhale, you're dropping your top arm, bending the front leg. This time we are going to come all the way down to the floor. So grounding your palms, step your back foot back. And come either into child's pose or sitting back on the heels, whichever suits you. Okay. Reconnect with the body in a quiet position for a few moments. Reconnecting with your breath. And also reconnecting just for a moment, just rest into your heart center, rest into the emotions. Checking in what you feel like. You could even ask yourself, how am I right now? And it's fine to feel whatever you're feeling, just opening up to that. So allow you to sit up. From there, bring your feet forwards. And hopefully this will be fine. So we're going to come into shoelace twist. So I want you to bring your left leg underneath, your right leg over the top. Okay. So shoelace, what it does is it really anchors the hips down, also challenges the hips. So we're sitting between the feet. You can sit on a brick. Yeah, I put the brick lengthways. So it's not, well, it depends on your buttock, your kind of hip width, really, to be quite honest. But you want to try to, be sitting towards the front edge of the sitting bones. And then you could turn either way. So we're going to turn towards the top leg. So the top leg in my case is the right. So I'm going to turn to the right and just very lightly turning. So I'm not using the arms strongly in this pose. Okay, so I'd like to emphasize more a sense of soft guiding the next few poses of the spine through the rotation. So it's very quiet, actually, the upper body work. I'm emphasizing lengthening towards the crown, through the vertical axis. Sense of the weight sinking through both sitting bones towards the edge of the sitting bones. feeling down into your pelvis. This pose by its nature is very challenging on the pelvic area, hip rotators, groins, even around the sacrum. Very powerful pose. On an exhale, we're releasing round to center, unraveling the legs and re-raveling the legs on the opposite side. You can wriggle, yeah, to try and bring your anchor, the sitting bones down there. Trying to sit between the feet, lengthening up for a moment through the axis, through the spine, and then gently turning. Let's think of like this pose is kind of a regal, noble pose. Sense of uprightness through the spine, to the crown. And very quietly, so we're not using the arms as strongly as say with the standing poses, more like guides to the rotation. The pelvis is fixed, the legs are fixed, and the upper body turns. If you can grow, sense of growing vertebra by vertebra, spinal column, face quiet, eyes relaxed, jaw releasing. And feeling the breath. Where is the breath? We're using like a minimal amount of effort with the arms, but you can explore that. Yes, you can gently, once you feel that the body's releasing, just gently guiding the turn. But try to allow the pose to soften within. Soften, as it were, from the inside out. Okay, exhale, releasing round to center. And release out the legs for a moment. So this pose, yeah, I would recommend sitting on a brick, but now I'm going to suggest you put it, I don't know if you've got bricks available, I'm just kind of assuming a bit, but put the brick wide ways, okay? And it just gives, in fact, you could even try, if you've got bricks, having two, okay? Because it gives a little bit more height. So what we're going to do is the left leg folds into itself and the right knee comes up. So this is like Marichyasana. And then we gently embrace the right shin, right leg, if you like, and grow your spine. So a sense of drawing the shoulder blades down the back, growing the spine. It's almost like exaggerating this growing up. So you're using your arms and legs as a support for that. And then we're going to turn to the right. So I'm taking my hand short. Yeah, depending on proportion, you might need a brick behind you so your hand reaches the floor. And then, yeah, we're going to very gently hook the left elbow, but this is where we can get into a lot of pulling and distorting. So you can hook the left elbow across the right thigh. If that doesn't work for you, embrace your right thigh like I'm doing now. And then we gently turn. So what I find actually is embracing allows me to lengthen the muscles away from the ears, across the shoulders towards the like I can lengthen through the triceps and the trapezius and turn gently to the right side. Okay. I want to try to keep the folded left leg down. Again, this is a fairly classic pose, Marichyasana. So it appears in most yoga systems that I can see in one form or another. So we're turning away from, it's almost as though the left sitting bone is anchored, and we're turning away from the left sitting bone. Again, emphasizing growing the spine. Towards the crown. Again, looking for the breath. Where's the breath? On an exhale, we're slowly unwinding and release the legs to the opposite side. So my right leg is folded in on itself. So I'm feeling quite supported up here. Obviously, you can do the pose closer to the ground. That's fine. So embracing the left shin. So my sitting bones are propped up on 2 bricks. Okay, and then turning from here, really emphasizing this length through the crown. So it's like growing the spine. Taking the left hand, I'm using a brick behind me as well, just to compensate for the height. And then we could start with hooking the elbow. But what I want us not to do is be getting to distorting really strongly the spine. So if you're noticing that you're getting into too much leveraging, try this method of embracing, which is in some ways, well, for me, it works better, embracing the left leg in this case. So I'm using my right forearm, pressing it towards me to gently draw myself around, but with being gentle. Again, maybe it's helpful to close the eyes, getting a sense of softening the pose from the inside out, rather than in trying to impose a strong action with the arms. You could explore making a little bit less effort if your tendency is to be very efforting in the twists. So the right knee floats down, but I'm gently pressing the inner right thigh down towards the floor. The sense of anchoring the right sitting bone and turning away from that. In terms of the head as well, so I've talked about this before, but you can turn the head, so it's an extension of the pose, so turning to the left, but you can also explore doing the same pose, but with the head looking forwards, which is quite interesting effect on the neck in relation to the upper body. So I'm now looking forwards, but I'm turning to the left. On an exhale, releasing round. And we're going to come to another version of Marichyasana. So my left leg comes forwards now. My right knee up. I'm still up on the bricks. Okay. You can see a few feet there. Okay, lengthening up. Okay, so what Marichyasana, this version does, sometimes Marichyasana 3, is it really anchors the sitting bone or on the straight leg side. Okay, so you'll notice you'll feel more anchored, more in a sense. There's more possibility of leverage from that side. So we're lengthening up, again turning to the right. So I'm going to go with the wrapping rather than the hooking, and I'm turning to my right, And I'm gently projecting through the left leg. I'm using the left leg as in a sense, an anchor and a leverage point to rotate. You can explore turning the gaze forwards. Broadening is a useful expression here. Broadening the upper back, broadening the chest. As much between the shoulder blades as across the front of the body. So thinking about broadening at the back of the body, broadening at the front of the body, but also broadening across the tops of the shoulders. If you could imagine yourself being, as it were, drawn out to the sides. So you're somehow becoming wider and flatter. My left leg slightly active as an anchor point, and just feeling the various forces at work in the pose. What's going on in the left leg? What's happening in the pelvis? How does the spine feel? I'm using my backhand as a prop to help sense of uprightness, vertical axis. And then releasing back round center. And switch sides, Bodhiyoga-13 on the opposite side. So my right foot comes forwards. Back a bit. So my right leg gently active. First of all, lengthening up before I turn. Lengthening up and then turning. Wrapping my right forearm around the left leg. Can also explore another detail would be separating, as it were, the lines of the feet. So I could take my left foot a little bit wider. So there's a sense of keeping the groins open. There's another way of describing that. So I'm not hugging into the center line with the feet. So my left foot in front of the left hip, right foot in front of the right hip. Sense of grounding, the sitting bones, drawing up, closing the eyes for a few moments. The right leg is the anchor, turning away from that anchor, growing your spine. Sense of broad flattening of the body even. Wide across the back of the body, wide across the front, wide across the top, the shoulders. And again, releasing to center. From here, we're going to come off. If you're on support, taking the support away, and take your legs. Yeah. Another prop. Sorry, a belt. If you've got a belt handy, that's good. If you haven't, don't worry. We'll improvise something. So with the belt, I'm going to have it on underneath the top of my left thigh, with the tails of the belt going out behind me. Okay, you can see where we're going to go with this. So this is wide leg, we'll probably start. And so we're going to turn to, I'm going to try and reach round with the right arm. So the belt is on the left side. So right arm goes up. And then we turn. Bring the right hand down and turn to the right. Now, if you can, take your right hand to the belt, or you could just get hold of the trouser or inner leg. Okay, so we're turning, staying in the upright position to begin with, turning to the right, lengthening up. So the left hand could be on in between the legs, or you can take it across your right thigh, growing your spine. Breathing in to intensify. So we take the left arm up now, and then we're going to tip out to the left. Okay, so tipping out to the same leg that you're holding with the right hand. And just explore coming into a lateral movement here. Maybe resting the left elbow to the inner leg, still turning. Turning the chest, turning the gaze towards the sky, towards the ceiling. Both legs active. It's quite a demanding pose, huh? So being attentive to what's going on in the lower spine, quadratus lumbarum, that area just off the pelvis into the lower spine. On an inhale, releasing both arms, letting yourself float back up the center. And take a pause there. Legs stay where they are, wide. Take your belt across to the opposite side. So you're bringing the belt right up into the top of the groin. The tails of the belt going behind you. Taking the left arm up for a moment, turning. Using the right hand in front of you, turning. And then taking this left arm behind you. And see if you can take hold of the belt. This is a position we use actually when we're working in Thai massage for the work around the shoulder blade. Taking the arm tucked behind you. So stay in the upright position to begin with, emphasizing axial lengthening. Taking the gaze to the left. Both legs active. And then floating your right arm up. So we'll explore the lateral movement. Okay, so we're going to take the pose to the right this time. Both legs active, exploring, going out to the right. You can maybe get hold of the big toe or not, depends on your flexibility. Again, it's a powerful pose, working the legs, working into the pelvis, the lower back. The gaze is turning, as is the chest, the gaze towards the sky. Both legs active. So projecting from through to the feet. And then releasing the hands, in the sense of very gently releasing, floating back up to center, least kind of effort. Come back up to the center line. So keep the legs where they are. Let's just try one more now that we're kind of into this. So you can leave the belt there, or we're not going to use the belt. So what I want us to do now is take both arms, float both arms up, float forwards. Yeah, this is going to work the inner legs. Okay, let's just try this. I have to say that I'm just improvising a little bit. So this is a movement which I didn't have in mind, but let's try it. So what I want us to do is to roll out to the left. Okay, so you're rolling out to the left. Opening the chest. You can let your right arm float up to the sky. Okay, we won't stay so long. So float back to center, both legs active. And then float to the opposite side. Opening out. Float back to center. Both legs active. Lengthening from the groins forwards and then float back to the first side again. Both legs active, float back to center. Gentle movements, can be strong on the lower back, these movements, okay. Float to the opposite side for the second side. I'm projecting out through the arms. Float back to center. And then very slowly walking the hands back up. This time, yeah, taking hold of the backs of the legs. Float your knees up. We'll take a pause whereby we rest. So I've got my feet forwards and I'm resting the upper body onto the legs for a moment. So the lower back becomes very quiet. I'm allowing the gaze to drop towards the floor. Breathing now. On an inhale, yeah, floating back up. And then we're going to come all the way down to the floor into semi-supine. Okay. And I want us to visit a couple of supine twists, which, yeah, we could have done them at the beginning, but we're going to do them now. So just to help release any tension from the back, I want us to float the knees up, one hand onto each knee. Should be really familiar. Tadasana says you inhale, you float the knees away from you. Exhale, float the knees towards you. Very gentle movement for the pelvis, lower spine. 8 or 10 times. Tadasana. Exhale, floating the legs towards you. Inhale, floating away. Releasing around the neck. Okay, then letting the knees float in towards you. That might not be 8 or 10. Okay, and then see if we can wrap your right forearm behind the knees. If that doesn't work, just because of shape or proportion, then that's fine. You can have the right form on top of the knees, but if you can, take them into that kind of space behind the knees. And then we're going to take the whole like legs, arm to the right and take the gaze to the left. So it's a simple supine twist. So the shoulder blade sinking down, particularly the left shoulder blade. Inner legs releasing towards each other. Something that can be quite restful here, just, you're probably aware of this, but you put a brick between the legs. You might find that gives you a little bit more sense of space within the pelvic structure. So I'm just putting a cushion or a brick, a foam brick between the knees. Releasing now, and then on an inhale, floating your left knee up, right knee up. So I'm going to keep the brick there. And then wrapping the left forearm around the back of the legs, going to the opposite side. So my gaze is to the right,
my legs to the left. Supta Parivritasana. So Parivrita is typically used to designate turning or twisting Parivrita. Releasing the shoulders down to the floor. So in this case, the upper body's fixed. The pelvis rotates. This is a lying twist. So you can soften around the shoulder blades, around the neck, particularly where the neck meets the shoulders. Connecting with the breath, connecting with your mood. Seeing if your mood is any clearer, or maybe lighter, or not. Surrendering to the floor. So with the lying twist, we're taking advantage of gravity, the spine. I wouldn't describe it as neutral, but it's like the whole upper body is supported by the floor. It's very different from the sitting and the standing rotations. Floating to the right leg up to the center, left leg up. So I wanted to try this one as well. So yeah, this time I'm going to place the hands around the back of the head. So this is sometimes called twisted root. It's a yin style pose. So we're going to bring, and it really depends a bit on proportion and shape. So the left leg, I'm wrapping round the right leg. Okay, so you may be able to hook the foot, you may not be able to. And then you bring your right foot to the floor, and then you can either pick up the pelvis and turn, keeping everything in the same sort of line, or you can simply let the pelvis roll to the right. Okay, so what I find here is the left knee doesn't necessarily want to touch the floor, it's kind of floating. But again, that just depends on your, as it were, capacity to rotate. But what I do find is it's more intensive kind of internally on this pelvic structure. So I can feel it pulling. I'm working the groins, pulling on the inner legs, in the hip rotators. It's a curious pose. I mean, personally, I find it quite challenging. I wouldn't describe it as like a, you know, a kind of a floppy, relaxing pose. At least that's not my experience with it. Okay. So I want to try to keep the shoulders down. So the upper body's fixed, but the pelvis rotates. So what I could do in my case is have a little prop for the floating knee. That would make it a little bit more quiet. I haven't got the knee floating in space. Okay, from there, inhale, float back to center, unravel the legs. And now the right thigh goes on top of the left thigh. If I can, I hook my right foot underneath and go to the opposite side. So I've got my hands around the back of the head. You can turn the head. So I find it challenges, yeah, as I said, into the hip structures, around the sacrum even, in a positive way. Yeah, it's challenging, tight material for me in that area. This is, Paul Grilly calls this like the twisted root, I think, or the yin yoga people call it that. So it's a variation of Supta Paravritasana. Connecting with the breath. And then right towards the end of this session, you're bringing in awareness of this quality of change. So I've not mentioned that up to now. So being aware that in a sense, everything is moving. Flux, fluidity. Nothing is static, even though it might seem so. Everything is changing, either more subtly or less subtly. Inhaling, so very carefully unwinding, unwrapping the legs. And I would like us to take one very gentle inversion pose before we come up into sitting. So I'm going to use 4 bricks. You could use a bolster, or you could use a wooden brick propped up on its end. So it's fairly gentle in that we're using the bricks in semi-supine into Dvipadapitam, so it's like the supported bridge. I'm broadening the chest and opening the chest, lengthening the spine, the lower spine, supporting the buttocks, and then I'm floating the legs up. Okay, so I'm not going to make too much of this. It's more just a way of ending and centering our energies. My legs very lightly active. You could likewise do this as a legs up the wall pose. Neck long. Likewise, if you want something more demanding, you could shift into a full shoulder balance sequence. You know, it really depends on what you want to do. Yeah, there is a twist in shoulder balance. I'll leave you to try and discover that. There's a couple actually. So you can take the twist, the rotation into the inversions. Likewise in headstand, there are twists as well. So a good source for that is Light on Yoga, the Iyengar Light on Yoga. Got a whole sequence for shoulder stand and headstand. But here we're just doing something very quiet, very gentle. Okay, then from there, one leg coming down, the other leg coming down. Releasing your pelvis to the floor. And we're going to come up into sitting, okay? So gently setting yourself up. You might, I mean, it's still quite cold over here. I'm sure it's in the north. It's even colder. But yeah, so make sure you layer up if you haven't got your central heating on. So we'll go from meditating into lying down. Okay, so So for this, yeah, what I want us to do now really is just get a sense of how that felt. So just literally 3-4 minutes of being still. My experience, as I said, can be one of a sense of balancing the sides of the body. Let's see what it is this time, what's happening at the end of this session. Moving into awareness, again, of the space around you. From the space around you, moving into whole body awareness. So we're emphasizing today rotation of the axis, upper body in relation to the pelvis, or the pelvis in relation to the upper body, and feeling through the various parts of your body in more precise detail to get a sense of what's happened in the pelvis, the hips, the thighs, groins. Through the arms and shoulders. Sense of sitting tall, upright. Feeling the right side of the body, feeling the left side of the body. Noticing areas of tension, release, pleasure, pain, or discomfort. And connecting with your breath. The waves of the sea, the income, the outgoing breath. Gently washing through your body. Coming into awareness of your mood, emotions, your mind state, mental state. And allowing yourself to rest into your experience, just as it is. Recognizing agitation, recognizing release, or sense of peace, recognizing irritation or irritability, recognizing contentment. So whatever's there, allow it to be there. So we're floating into awareness.
And once again, being aware of this quality of change, the sense of fluidity, or even there's this word insubstantiality. So the nature of things being described as insubstantial. Like a dewdrop, like a flower, like a flash of lightning, coming into being, going out of being. Let's see if we can let go for a few moments. And if we're connecting with this quality of letting go, also the quality of gentleness, see if it's possible to bring that quality of gentleness into your next activities, whatever that is, interactions with other people, or even just with yourself for the next period of time, being gentle, kind. So from here, I'm going to let you stay on or drop back into Shavasana. I would recommend to do a few minutes of Shavasana. I'd like to thank you very much for coming along, and see you soon.